Okay, starting, what is it, round 4 here. My Portuguese, who go first, went. And Cabral sailed from here up to here. Got exploration on everything. It was actually a 1/2, but he lost most of his ships. He's down to 2 ships now. He wanted to make it to here. He may still take a shot at that if he gets that close. But it's late in the round, so he doesn't want to take too many risks because he still has to roll attrition and get back, or else all these finds this turn don't make it back to Europe. And he's got, even more important, Da Gama with him, who he really needs in order to settle Goa. So it's kind of a mixed bag there. Now, Da Gama is not absolutely vital, but he's pretty important for it. Da Gama also took a risk and landed in Ethiopia and discovered that little space, which is almost unimportant to them. But they also cleared up the pirate here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop these back in here. They're like level 2. Theoretically, what really happens is they grow by, they're already level 1 this turn. They grow up to whatever level they were at. In the absence of pirates. But nobody's going to be able to drop a commercial fleet in there this turn, so they'll be up to their level 2 by next turn, which is the highest they'll ever go unless some event drives them higher. Well, I'm here on the Turkish segment of this round, and they're in a kind of disturbing position. They've got a decent sized army, there's no question there. And they'd like to move over and start sieging Syria, Damascus in particular. However, up here, the Mamluk army, which isn't terribly well led, in fact it's worse off than theirs is sitting up in the mountains. If they move down here, they can be cut off and then they can't siege. So they kind of have to attack that army. Unfortunately, there's a defensive modifier for being in the mountains, which makes it a riskier situation. And then there's also one more factor, though. Cavalry isn't doubled in the mountains. So this is actually kind of a disadvantage for that rich Mamluk Cav army. But it does provide a problem for the Turks as well. On the other hand, the Turks are continuing to pursue the knights, privateers here. See, the Spanish kind of responded. After the Turks threw Algeciras out with the target of Spain, the Spanish moved in and are trying to shoot it down. You know, that's a Turkish hold. They try to say, Spain will knock out your commerce if you knock ours out. But unless Spain is really in favor of Turkey, they're not willing, at least mildly, they're not terribly willing to make this deal because their trade doesn't matter that much to them, their Mediterranean trade. They only have really the one counter. Whereas the Turks really are kind of being harassed by this, and if they get their trade reduced, they lose a point of stability each turn that it happens, assuming that they're not at war or anything else. So, it would be much more in Turkey's advantage for that deal than it is on Spain's. So unless Spain can get some kind of other advantage, they usually will say, the hell with you, Turkey. What are we getting out of it? Help us with France. Okay. Alright, let's see what the Turks do. And the vagaries of the battle system come out here. Both rolled pretty well. The overall battle. Turks did about 40 points of damage against the Mamluks. The Mamluks did about 30 to the Turks. Both forced back, take attrition rolls. The Mamluks survived their attrition completely. The Turks lost 40% of their force, which is another 40 points of troops or so. So now they're actually probably significantly less. Well, I don't know. The Mamluks are pretty heavily down to 55. The Turks are at 64. The Turks lost, and this is kind of a good thing, one of their pashas. Pashas are excellent to take losses with. It's one reason you kind of want them in the battles, although they always count as conscripts. So sometimes you don't want to throw them in because they'll throw your edge over if you built up your army this turn. But they add some padding of stuff that you kind of want to lose. The problem, of course, is these guys with 0 strength you can never get rid of, and he costs you $5 a turn. You can only get rid of him by impaling him or some kind of other event option, which is kind of cool. But so easy to forget little rules. Briefly, the wars are still going on. Kind of inconclusive, to tell you the truth. The Turks continued and pushed their siege down here. Now they're at risk. They put some troops in Aleppo, but it's probably not enough to protect their supply line. And this is the real problem. Unless they defeat that Mamluk army, they don't have an easy way of coping with the whole situation. And France has chased the Habsburgs out. Things are in bad shape there. But the thing I forgot, what I'm saying, is both England and France lose a point of stability for violating Tordesillas, those explorers they sent out. This is one of the problems for the countries other than Spain and Portugal, is they take a stability loss. It's not a big deal for England because they've been growing their economy. This is the second turn in a row that they've done so. So next turn, if, right? First turn they had an economy, second turn they have an economy. Now, they won't get a growth until next turn. And in fact, having dropped down from +3, they may not get that automatically. So they may want to invest to bump that up. But after this turn, they can continue doing that. Anyway, it's just one of them little things that's easy to forget. If the Turks had had just a little bit more strength, they would have held Aleppo. They did enough morale hits in the shock phase, and a decent amount of damage too, to break the morale of the Mamluks. And they might have actually just destroyed that army had the Mamluks not also completely wiped them out. They needed a pretty good roll for it. Both sides got a total of 9. The Mamluks got a +1 for having 2-to-1 cav advantage. The Turks had a good pasha there, and he gave them a +2 to this shock value. So that was, a pretty intense battle. We see the siege has already started. The Turks are going to have to pull out of here, and they're just going to have to withdraw back home. They can't try to do a cutoff or fight in Aleppo, and they're going to take an attrition result for that if the round does not end. If the round ends, yeah, they still have to withdraw, and they'll have to take an attrition result. So no matter what, it's kind of a problem for them. Everything else is kind of settled down. The English made another attempt and failed again, lost half their fleet. A couple of ships each time. Hey, let's make a roll, see if the event happens. I've got some victory points to mark down. Yeah, we're still playing, so we'll go here. We got some leaders that are going to come back on the map, and they get placed, as per normal placement rules, trying to not violate the command structure. Well, another round and we're still not done. They usually don't go this long. If you think about the probability of getting this far, it's fairly low, but you see a few each game that do. What happened? The Spanish are running low on money. They've been shifting troops over so that they could get reinforcements right in their army, in their Habsburg army. Of course, they could have just moved the Habsburgs, but they didn't want to leave their Spanish troops at risk in the Netherlands. The French could then stab in and maybe get a cheap victory that way. Outside that, well, we have Columbus sailing around. He's found the Rio del Plata. He's basically laying the groundwork. Next turn, he may, if he can get down close into here, maybe even go through the Cape, he may make a shot at trying to circumnavigate. He's one of the few people who's good enough that he can. Okay. Beyond that, the Turks launched themselves at Aleppo and got thoroughly beaten. Major defeat, which is worth a couple of points towards the peace. And I don't know, some anti-piracy activities. Not a lot really going on. The Brits continued to try to push their Cabot down. He ended up failing and going home. They're probably done at this point. It's really just a matter of, well, what can you outlast? The Spaniards defeated the Algerian fleet. Now the Tunisian one has moved in to harass them. The Turks probably will throw a fleet into here to harass someone else too, just maybe Venice or something, to make life a little uglier on them. And now we are indeed at the end. So what happened? Well, the Mamluks got their roll. Turks have finally chased the Chevaliers out. They didn't even roll anything except attrition this turn. The Turks, or the Mamluks, got a roll and got a breach on Aleppo, but they didn't have enough troops to take it. They made the attack and ended up, I don't know, they only had 12 strength points, and they're facing more than that actually, 20. They don't have cannons, so it didn't work out well. They've got to kind of wait for a surrender or an honors of war to get that. Now, here's what happens. In the redeployment phase, and I may have implied differently before, this is the end of a turn. If they were a user minus, or worse, they would have to withdraw and take attrition losses. As it stands, they get to stay there, but they get to take attrition as well. Now, they have to have a significant amount of troops left at the end of this. Right now they have quite a few because they have all these cav. But cav don't help with the siege itself, so they couldn't use them in the assault, but they can screen the city with them. And that's why there's a siege that they can sort of not take, not win. It's just kind of an interesting situation. I suppose I'll come back after I handle all this stuff because I've already discussed what happens. So after some stability investment, this is what we see. What we haven't seen yet is the drop due to the war. That's going to happen. Turkey, Spain, and France are each going to go down one more. And you can see that Turkey's going to already be falling into where they're making less income. All right, so now the war differential. Turkey could try to make peace with the Mamluks, but that's very painful. Right now, they'd be at -6. And I believe the Mamluks have an additional penalty, which is... No, I don't think they do. Maybe they don't. Okay, anyway. There'd be a -6 to the table, which means to get a chance at a peace, you'd have to offer quite a bit. Now, the Turks wanted this war. They still want it. They want to build up an army and try to face the Mamluks again. Of course, they can only build it back here, which, you know, isn't too far away, but anyway. And it'll be conscript and la la la. However, the French really want peace with the Habsburgs. Right now, the net with the Habsburgs is only -2. If they can get the Habsburgs out of this war, then they'll be better in position to deal with Spain alone. In order to do so, well, what they have to do, I think they have to get, let's see. Oh no, here it is. Mamluks give them -4. That's not on this other one, oddly enough. The Habsburgs give them -3, which means they've got a 1-point penalty. And let me try to see what you need to aim for. You need to get a 5 or more with the minors. So they've got a 1-point penalty, so if they ask for a white piece, they would need 1 or better. If they went for a level 1 piece, I'm sorry, they would need a, I don't even remember what I said, but they would need a 6 or better on the roll. If they went for a level 1 piece, I believe that costs twice as much. Let me see. Ooh, I forgot something else. Miners accepted a separate piece. This would be a separate piece, so that's 2 more. So that now they're up to an 8. That's what they're going to roll on. They're going to go for a white piece. They need an 8 or better. I think it's 2 more points if they want it like $50 off the Habsburgs. They do not get it, so the war is going to continue with the Habsburgs in Spain. It doesn't, you know, cause more stability loss because they couldn't get the Habsburgs out. They would have gotten kind of a bonus. Now, if France and Spain wanted to make an end to this war, they could. The net right now between them is... Let's see. It's going to be listed somewhere. So it's all in one side. I believe the net for this war, Spain's got a -4. I must have France wrong. But anyway, I believe the net for the war comes out to be a 6 in France's favor. Since their stability is the same, that would mean a peace of level 3. Now, Spain's not really tickled by the idea of surrendering at that. They'll go for a white peace. They're fine with that. But they don't see a reason to give France a peace of level 3, which would mean, let's see, modified stability gets 2 provinces. Now, there are no provinces that can be selected that are agreeable unless the players agreed to it. And this would end up causing indemnities, which would be $150 Spain would owe France for this turn, because you couldn't give the provinces. But Spain doesn't want to cut this piece, and France isn't terribly willing to accept it either. There's no constraint that requires either of them to take a piece. So Spain doesn't have to surrender. France doesn't have to accept it if they did. All that's going to happen is boink, and this is going to go down too, because the Turks definitely do not want to make this negotiation with the Mamluks. All right, where else are we? Prosperity would get increased at this point, but we're only on the second turn. And now we get rid of some leaders, bring new ones in, inflation, and we add up the victory points. I'll come back right after the victory points are there. Okay, well, there was some victory point that I didn't give in the first turn, which is that everybody gets their stability value in victory points, which could be negative, could be positive. In everybody's case, that was positive on the first turn. Turkey's in this turn is not. It's 0. Also had to add both Turkey and Venice have partial monopolies, and that's worth a victory point each. I forgot to sail back home. These have to go here. And the Spaniards can drop home as well. They have to find a port. They'll go to Catalonia. That's the closest. Okay. Anyway, the nets here are 71 for Portugal, Russia, 18 for France, 11 for England, 0 for Spain, 5 for Venice, and negative 12 for Turkey. Oh, I forgot to give Venice some points. They get some points off the Mamluks. They get 7 more, so they'll be up to 12. Anyway, you can kind of get a view of how victory points are gained and lost in a lot of ways. A lot of them are these big hits, you know, where, like Portugal being able to get that bonus discovery was just huge, right? The other big ones that you're going to get are the end of turn ones, end of period ones. And then you're also going to get, eventually, large numbers of victory points for some countries for having just merchant fleets out there. Things like the Dutch and the English can just crank them in off their monopolies. Likewise, you can get them off the monopolies in raw materials that you're producing. Anyway, we'll move on to the next turn. I'm sure I've made more mistakes that I haven't caught, but hey, that's okay. All right, and we got some new leaders coming on and some other new stuff that I'll distribute. I don't think anybody dies on turn 2. I kind of checked that. So this turn, though, I got to remember to kill people at the end.